Hey everybody, what's going on? Anonymous 2K back on Marvel Contest of Champions, and today we have another video on the guiding series that we're doing on the masteries, what they do, how much PI they give, and which one you should get, so you know what they're doing and you'll be able to decide which one you want to get for yourself and not just blindly follow everybody else. It's important to understand that everything that is mentioned in this video is my personal opinion. This video is recorded at June 2017. That means that it's post patch 13.0 and it's third time that the master is being changed. Before we're gonna jump into the video, just want to remind you guys that I do Marvel Contest of Champions gameplay and review here on the channel, so make sure to subscribe to be up to date to all the great content and release, and to watch all the mastery series that we're gonna release in the upcoming days. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to divide the offensive mastery into 4 sections. Right here, what you see with the points is going to be the base 16, the base attributes and the base mastery that you want to get. The second part is going to be the Fury and the class specific masteries. It's the Furies, the 2 Furies right here, and the class is the skill class and the mutant class. That's going to be the second part. The third part is going to be on the right top side of the screen. Is the suicide masteries. We're going to talk about them. And the last and definitely not the least is the deep wounds and the assassins masteries. All right, so let's get into the game. The first ability, the first mastery that I'm going to talk about is going to be the straight mastery, the strength mastery. Sorry, the strength mastery is up straightforward, increases the attack of all champions by 6, and it's goes up until 33. Sorry, this mastery gives a boost of damage on all your champions from 6 to 33. It's pretty much basic. As far as the PI boost that this mastery gives, the first level gives 0.42%, and the second until the 8th level is pretty much the same, 0.2, and the last one gives 0. almost 4%, as you guys can see, 39. I have personally tested everything on those PIs. I have 70 4-star champions. I have tested every single level on all the 70 champions. It was a 2-day grind and it was like hell on earth. So please do appreciate the time that I've invested, and please give it a like and share the video. The second ability that I'm going to talk about, the second mastery, is the greater strength. Increase the attack of all champions by 0.6%, and it goes up until 8%. Basically, it's just as the first one, but instead of increasing it for a set of number, it's gonna increase as a percentage. What I have actually found it out that every single time that I used the strength mastery on my lower champions, they got more attack and more prestige and more PI boost. Sorry. And the greater strength gave the lower level champions, the 550s, gave bigger boosts. As you guys can see, the first level on the greater strength on this guy right here, it's gonna give us 0.72%. The second and forward is gonna, as you guys can see, it goes down to 0.2 and then goes up again to 0.4 until it maxes out at level 9, again at 0.1%. In both of them, unless you're a new champion, when you're a new champion, you have to think which one you want to invest more. But when you progress it into the game forward and on, 1 point is sufficient, and you don't really want to get more than that. The third mastery is going to be the Courage Mastery. The Courage Mastery increases the attack of all champions by 10% while they're below 50% health. What that means that when you drop below 50% health of your champion, you're gaining 10% boost on the first level, 15 on the second, and 20 on the third one. It doesn't matter if you start the fight over the 50% and then drop lower than 50, you gain the boost, and you gain the boost even if you start the fight below 50%. It works in both ways. What I actually found out, and this is the crazy thing about this actual mastery, that the Courage Mastery gives 2.36% PI boost on all your champions on the first level, and on the second and the third level it doesn't give any boost at all. Everybody stays the same. I was actually shocked to find that out. I didn't believe it until I tested it myself. So for that reason, the PI boost is crazy for just that 2.36%. So I strongly suggest you get that point when you even if you don't drop below 50%, just for the PI boost, it's worth it. Let's keep on to the Pierce mastery. Critical hits from your champions ignore an additional 5% armor. It goes up from 5, 10, and 15 for every extra level. As you guys can see, each and every level is going to give you about 0.49% boost on all your champions. Again, when you're in the beginning of the game, you really want to see if you want to get in, if you want to put more than 1 point into it. When you're at the late game, there are a lot better masteries to use that on. Basically, what this mastery does, it ignores 5% armor on your critical hits. Every time your champion does a critical hit, the enemy receives 5, 10, and 15% more damage from you. Not on regular hits, only when it crits. So I'm not that big of a fan of this one. The next one that I want to talk about is the Lesser Precision. Increases the critical rating of all your champions by 25 and goes up to 125. Basically, what this does, and Precision as well, that increases the critical rating of all your champions by by 85 until 425. Both of those masteries gonna give you more critical hits. That means that you have more chances of doing a critical hit. On the Lesser Precision, as you guys can see, it gives 0.14% on each and every level when you rank it up. So what I would suggest, put in 1 point into it and not going over that. On the second ability that we have here, the Precision, it's gonna give us 0.6%, give or take, on every level. As you guys can see, it's a lot more than the previous one. So yes, you do want to max it out. We want as many crits as possible. And it's important to know that a lot of your champions are gonna do on-hit effects while they're critting. So this is one of the abilities that are must in the mid game and in the end game as well. Let's go over to Lesser Cruelty. What this does is increases the critical damage rating of all the champions by 30. That means that every single time that the champion does critical hit, this will do more damage for that critical hit. For example, if your champion is doing a critical hit and he's doing 500 damage, with this is going to do more than 500. It's going to do 520, 550, 600. It depends on the how many points you have in the critical damage rating. As far as we can see, this one gives 0.14% PI boost on all your champions, respectively, on all the levels from the 1 till the 5th one. So it's not that big of a PI boost. I would not suggest putting a lot of points into it. Unlike the Cruelty that we can see, it's the same thing. Increases the critical damage rating of all your champions by 95 up until 475. This mastery gives 1 point, almost 1.2 on the first level, and 1 point, Basically over than 1 point, somewhere between 1.1 and 1.2% PI boost on all your champions on each and every level. So you do want to max it out, not just because it's good to have as higher damage as possible in your critical hits. It is good to have the PI boost that this mastery gives us. The reason that I have it set up like this, that every all the masteries got 1 point other than precision and cruelty. The reason for that is that we want as many hits, as many crits as possible, and do as much damage as possible on those crits. Moving on to the second part of the tree, is gonna be the fury and the class specific ones. Right here we have the extended fury. Increases the duration of all fury by 0.2 seconds, going up until 0.8 seconds. As we can understand, this will increase your it's gonna increase the duration of all the fury. So when you have a fury buff up, instead of like 2 seconds, it's gonna it's gonna last for 2.2 until 2.8 seconds. It's pretty much self-explanatory. As we guys can see, the PI boost on this master is not that high. It's 0.25. It's quarter of a percent on each and every level. So you don't want to really get this ability for the PI. Basically, it's an ability that you get basically when you need it. That means that if you have a Fury champion that are going through Labyrinth of Legends or something, or the Realm of Legends, or some special fight that you need, it's not a master that I would suggest to have on a daily basis. Right next to it, we have the Enhanced Fury. Increases the effectiveness of the Fury by 2% and going up until 8%. That means that if your Fury gives you more damage, for example, your Fury buff gives you 20% damage. With this, you're going to receive 2% more on that 20. That means that 20 point, like let's say you max it out, extra 8%, it's 20.8% Fury. Not that big of a boost as you guys can see. So again, this is not a master that I would suggest on a daily basis. And as you guys can see, the PI boosts of it, it's not that of high. It's again just a quarter of a percent, 0.25 on each and every level. So not something that I would suggest you getting, unless again you're going through Labyrinth of Legends and Realm of Legends and you need it for a specific build. On the right side hand screen, we have the Pure Skill. The Pure Skill is a skill class boost, skill plus mastery that only skill champions can benefit from it. It's important to understand that only for skill. Therefore, only skill champions get the PI boost, as you guys can see. The 0.45% on the first 2 levels, because I have only 2 levels unlocked. I really didn't invest into it. What they does is, with extensive field training, skill champions ignore an additional 4% enemy armor with critical hits. It goes up to 8, 16, and 64. Basically, it's the same ability as you have right here as Pierce, but for skill champions. When you want to get it, in my opinion, this ability is really good if you're going with that skill champion through Realm of Legend or Labyrinth of Legends, and you're just using that one champion. If you want to get it for a daily basis, I would strongly not suggest doing it, since it's only going to give you the PI boost for only skill champions, and it's just not worth getting for, in my opinion, on a regular basis, unless your top champion is a skill one and you just love that champion. The Mutagenesis. This is the same as the previous one. This skill is purely for mutants and only for mutants. Rapid mutagenesis closes bleed wounds in your mutant champions 0.5 0.5 seconds faster than non-mutants. And as in a previous and as in all the other masteries, it goes up from 0.5 to 2.5 seconds. Basically, what it does, it reduces the bleed time of your champions from 0.5% until 2.5%. This mastery gives us 0.4% boost on all your mutant champions. I have not unlocked it more than one level because I didn't really use it. A lot of mutant champions don't really need it. The top champions that are, in my opinion, Rogue. She has 90% buff decrease, so you don't really need that. You have Iceman that is immune to bleed anyways. Yes, you do have a lot of other champions that may benefit from it, but in my opinion, it's just not worth getting. But you decide for yourself. After we covered those two sections, let's move over to the third section, and the third section is the Suicide Masteries. For the Suicide Masteries, to unlock it, you have to go through Glass Cannon first. To unlock the Glass Cannon first, you need 15 points in the in the base section of the game. So what I did, I showed you guys what I use. You need to 15 points, and plus I always use the courage because the PI boost on that one master is just insane. So I'm not using the base 15 for the offensive tree. I'm using the base 16 for the offensive tree. As far as Glass Cannon, increases the attack of all your champions by 2.4%, but reduces their maximum health by 2.4%. Basically, what that means is that you're trading 2.4% of your health, your personal health, to do more damage. What it is important to understand that in this game, mostly you do more damage than receive damage. So it is beneficial from mid-game and on to sacrifice a little bit of your health to get more damage. Me personally, I do a lot more hits than get hit. So sacrificing my health for more damage, it is very, very useful, and very, in my opinion, it's worth it. What is more important to understand, that when you rank that up, you sacrifice more health and you do more damage. When you want to do this, when you're not gonna go full suicide, it is good to max out Glass Cannon because you're gonna do more damage. But when you go to the Glass Cannon and Liquid Courage, in my opinion, 1 point. When you go into Liquid Courage and Double Edge, and you get into Suicide Masteries, and you get like 60% more damage over there. 1 point in Glass Cannon is more than enough, but we're going to talk about it in a little bit. As far as the PI boost on Glass Cannon, we can see the first level gives us 0.6%, and the second and third almost are going to give us almost the same. So it's not a bad mastery to get for the PI boost, and it's a very, very good mastery to have overall. As far as the Recoil, you can unlock the Recoil only after you unlock the Glass Cannon. This increases the special attack damage of all the champions by 15%, but they sacrifice 5% health for each activation. That means that every time you use SP1, SP2, and SP3, you're going to sacrifice 5% of your health. You're going to do damage to yourself, but that special attack is going to do 15 points more damage, and that 15 points goes to 22.5 and 30% more damage, and of course you're going to sacrifice more of your health. Who this ability is good for? This ability is good for example, for Thor, because you do those 2 armor breaks, you get to the SP3, just slam down that hammer, and you just wreck everything that you want to do. Me personally, I did not open it more than 1 point because I'm not going to do that. I'm using a lot of other champions as well, so In my opinion, it's not worth it. As far as the PI boost for this ability, for this mastery is 0.53%. On the first one, I have not unlocked the second and third, so I would not know. This ability is very, very, very bad, and it can hurt you if you're going for Alliance War, Alliance Quest, and a lot of regular questing. That means that every single time that you want to do specials, it hurts you. You cannot spam that SP1 and SP2. This ability does not go hand in hand for all those champions that need to spam that SP1 and SP2, and I'm talking about mainly Voodoo, and I'm talking about all the other champions that actually need that SP1 and SP2 damage. For example, right now, this recoil is broken. Kabam. Don't be surprised that something is not working correctly. And it's working on SP1 and SP2, and SP3, it's not working. So you can use the recoil on the SP3 and you'll not receive damage. That is right now as we're recording this tutorial, this guide, but probably Kabam is gonna fix it in the future, so check it out and make sure that when you're using it, if it's still broken or not. Let's move on to the Liquid Courage. Liquid Courage increases the attack of all champions by 10%, but they suffer an eternal poison that drains 0.6 health each second. This attack from 10 goes up to 20 and 30, but the drain stays the same. So what is important to understand from this mastery? This mastery actually does damage to you every single time, every single second, but gives you boost. This is this Liquid Courage, this ability, because does the same damage on level 1 and level 3, you don't ever want to just unlock the first level. If you're going for the Liquid Courage, always go for level 3, because it's going to do the same damage, but you're going to receive 30% on your attack increase instead of just the 10 or just the 20. As far as the PI of this ability, of this mastery, it's by far the biggest PI boost in the game per point. It's going to give 4.36 on the first one, it's going to give 4.44 on the second one, and it's going to give 4.23 on the third rank. If you're going to take and sum all that up, it's going to give you 13% boost on just those 3 points. So it is extremely strong ability to have if you're going for those arenas and if you want to get as much points as possible. What I wanted to mention in addition, that when you have this ability unlocked, don't worry about the 0.6% health loss, because there's a mastery over in the defensive tree that called Willpower, and you can offset it and regain basically the same amount of health that you're losing with that mastery. We're going to go into that in the defensive tree. So don't be frightened. If you want to get it, you can get it. It's a very good mastery. I actually use the Suicides for the past year and a half now. The second component of the Suicide masteries is the Double Edge. This increases the attack of all your champions, again by 10%, but up to 10% health is lost by bleeding over 8 seconds. This ranks up at 12 and 16. Yes, this ranks up at 12 and 16 seconds of the initial bleed, and the percentage of the health that you lose goes from 10, 15 to 20. And as you guys can see, the damage goes up from 10, 20, and 30% again. What is important to understand, same thing with Double Edge, same thing with Double Edge that applies with Liquid Courage. You have that mastery over at the defensive tree, the Willpower, that's gonna offset a little bit less because of the diminishing returns, but you're still gonna receive a big portion of the health back. So don't be frightened about that. Every single time that you you rank up this mastery, you do lose more health. The bleed lasts for longer, but it's exactly the same amount of bleed. It just goes for longer. That's about it. Don't think that you're gonna lose more health to bleed just because it's for more time. It's longer and it's bigger. It's just the same amount of same number of health that you lose per second. It just goes for a little longer than 8 seconds, then goes up to 16. As you guys can see, this mastery has a big boost for your PI as well. On the first rank, it has 1.6. On the second rank, it has 3.26, and on the third one, it has 1.56. Again, those are the numbers that I have came down from my roster. Altogether, you're going to receive 6.5%, a little over than 6.5% boost from the double edge. What you do want to keep in mind when you have double edge and liquid courage is the heal blocks. The heal block nodes, those are going to be the biggest Achilles heel for you. But what you can do is offset it with the champions that are not bleeding and not poisoning. You can offset with the immune champions. The best immune champions that I have in my roster, and I do use them, it's Ultron, it's Divisions, it's Iceman. I don't have Dormammu, but he's immune to bleed and poison as well, so he would be a very, very good champion to use as well. And of course, you have all those half and halves. That means that the champions are immune just for the bleed, or the champions that are immune just for the poison. As far as the suicides, by far the best PI boost that you can get in the game from the suicides per point. Try them out. They're costly, I do agree with you, but I use them and I make it work. In my opinion, I've tried to go back with other suicides, and the difference in damage is such a big difference that I always rather keep the suicides rather than just drop them. But we're gonna have a different suicide mastery guide on the channel, so if you're actually interested in suicides, go check it out. Go check out the different suicide guide that I'm going to do. Last but definitely not the least, we have the lower right side of corner of the screen, and it's the deep wounds and the assassin mastery. To start everything up with, we have the despair mastery. The despair mastery, what the despair mastery does is the debuffs applied to the enemy reduces their healing and regeneration effects by 5% each, goes up till 15%. That means that every time that you're gonna apply a debuff on an enemy, he's gonna reduce their healing and regenerating effects on himself. In my opinion, this is not a mastery that you should unlock and invest a lot into. I have unlocked the despair mastery from just to see how much PI boost it's gonna give. On the first level, it gave me 1.0, almost 1.9%. On the second, it gave me 0.53, and then the third one 0.82. Not that big of a boost as I hoped, but you do need the level 1. The level 1 is good. When do you want to use this despair mastery? Basically, in my opinion, the only use for this is situational. That means that every time that you use it, you're not always going to use those champions that are going to apply a lot of debuffs on the enemy. So if you if you're going through Realm of Legends Wolverine, you can use the despair if you have a champion that applies a lot of debuffs, just to prevent him from healing. But in my opinion, it's a waste of time if you're going for the Realm of Legends for the first time, because you have a lot better champions to use. You have Scarlet Witch that can just nullify on regular basis all those regens and healing factors. So, and Scarlet Witch, I'm not talking about just for the Realm of Legends on everyday basis. For Realm of Legends, you have Voodoo that can nullify. You have Magic with nullification, and if you want to go for Realm of Legends, you can use just Guillotine that actually reverses the healing and the regeneration effect, and you have Loki that every single time is gonna steal the regeneration on the Wolverine. So, in my opinion, 1 point is more than enough, but suit yourself. It's your treat. The next ability that I'm going to talk about is the Unfazed ability. When an enemy evades, your champion has 17% chance to stack 150 critical damage rating for the next critical hit and becomes unstoppable 1 second. I really don't like this ability. I don't even have it unlocked at level 1 because basically when the enemy evades, you have very certain evading enemies in the game. You have all the Spider-Mans and you have basically Nightcrawlers, so you can work around the evades. You can go ahead and check out Dorky Diggity Dave's tutorial how to play against those evades. He's got a real good tutorials. I learned personally a lot from that. And when you have a 17% chance of becoming unstoppable and getting those critical damage rating, it's just not worth it in my opinion, right? So why invest points in Unfazed, right? If it was like from the first point, every time that enemy evades, you become unstoppable and get a critical damage. Yes, I understand. You go in and just bash on the enemy, and with the evade, you just continue hacking on him. But 17%, and even if you input 5 points, it's just gonna go up to 55. And in my opinion, it's most definitely not worth getting. That's why I didn't even tested this one and don't have it unlocked. So don't get it. Deep Wounds. Bleed your champions inflict lasts 0.5 seconds longer. If they have more health points than your target, your bleed instantly strikes down the additional 0.2 max health from the enemies. Basically, from this Deep Wounds, the first section of it is what people go for. Bleed your champions inflict lasts 0.5 seconds longer. It goes from 0.5 seconds to 2.5 seconds, and the max damage of the health goes from 0.2 to 1 point. What this does is extends the bleed duration of the champions that you apply with the okay. What this does is, oh my god. What this does is extends, yes. What this does is extends the time of the bleed that your champions apply onto the enemy. For example, if your champion applies a bleed, instead of lasting 2 seconds, it's going to last 2.5 seconds up until 4.5. Of course, it depends on how much of the Deep Wounds do you have invested in. Additionally, the second half of it is that if you have more health points than the opponent, it's every single time that you strike a bleed, it's gonna drain maximum amount of the opponent's health. I don't really gonna talk a lot about it because this part is not that big of a deal. It's good that it's there, but most of the time you're not fighting champions that have less health than you. Most of the time they have more health, and even if they have less health than you, that means that they're at the end, and basically the assassin's gonna kick in and I don't think that you're gonna find yourself a lot having this triggers. So maybe once, twice in a fight, and that's even not gonna be for too much damage. So what is the more important thing in this bleed wounds mastery is that it's gonna make the enemy bleed more. For example, if you're doing 400 bleed per tick and you have deep wounds at 1 point, every tick is half a second, so it's gonna bleed for exactly the same amount of bleed for one more tick. For example, every level is gonna give you one more tick. Level 1, 1 tick. Level 2, 2 ticks. Level 5, 5 ticks. If your champion does 400 damage per tick, at level 5 he's gonna do 400 damage 5 more times. 5 more ticks, 2.5 seconds more. Extends the same amount of bleed. It does not reduces the bleed damage, it just extends it. As you guys can see, as far as the PI boost, the first rank is super critical, super important, 2.12%. The second, the third, and the fourth is not that big of a deal, and the last one is just 0.6%. So if you don't really want to get this one just for the bleed, I would suggest getting it for the PI boost that it gives. Not a bad mastery to have. Super useful mastery to have if your top champions are bleeders. If you're not, just get the 1 point, more than enough, and that will unlock this, the last one, the Assassin's Mastery. Assassin's Mastery. Against enemies below 18% health, your champions gain 20% attack and decrease enemy defensive ability accuracy by 12%. If the enemy starts the fight below 18%, your champions also gain 30 offensive ability accuracy. Okay, so let's break it down. Against enemies that have 18%, that means that when you're fighting enemies and their health is dropping below 18%, you are going to get 20% boost on your damage. In addition, it's going to decrease the enemy's ability accuracy by 12%. If you rank up this mastery, when you drop your enemy below 18%, your damage is going to go up from 20, 30, 40, 50, and 60%. So on the last one, you are going to receive 60% boost on your damage. And of course, you're going to reduce their defensive ability accuracy from 12, 14, 16, 18 until 20% reduced ability accuracy. The second part of this mastery is that if you start the fight below 18%, that means that you enter the fight and the enemy has less than 18%, your champions also gain 30% offensive ability accuracy. That means that you're gonna do more on-hit effects by 30%. This one does not change and does not scale when you rank that up. As far as the PI boost that this mastery gives, the first one is crucial, is 1.46%, as you guys can see. The second, third, fourth, and fifth is just 0.6-ish. So as far as if you want to get the PI boost, the first one is a must. The second and fourth, it's not that big of a deal. In my opinion, in my personal opinion, the Assassin's Mastery is a very good mastery to get 1 point. Over that 1 point, well, the second and the third I don't really think you should invest more than 1 point, just because when you're doing the regular fights, the Lion's Quest, the Lion's War, and the arenas and the regular questing, the enemies do not have that much of health points, right? So they don't have too much health. So you're gonna get to that 18%, and you're gonna when you get to that 80%, 18%, usually you already have that special ready, so you're gonna just blast that and just kill them without the Assassin's Mastery, in my opinion, and it's just not worth the points. Where this Assassin's Mastery is very crucial, and you should max it out, it's when you're doing those long ass fights. It's Realm of Legends, and more important, in Labyrinth of Legends. If you're going through the Labyrinth of Legends, yes, in my opinion, you should get it to more than 1 point, 2, 3, maybe 5. I don't know. It depends on the mastery build that you're gonna do, based on the champion that you're gonna take in. But if you're not going through the Realm of Legends or the Labyrinth of Legends, in my opinion, this mastery, it's not that important to get. Basically, this was it. I have just 1 point in the Assassins. Yes, this is all the offensive mastery explanation and the breakdown. You think which of the masteries you want to get. If you have any questions, do let me know in the comment section down below. If you have any questions, do let them know. Guys, make sure to check out the defensive and the utility tree guide that we have right here on the channel. I worked for straight up 2 days for those numbers, so make sure to give it a like, subscribe to the channel if you're not, share the video to whoever you think it's gonna help. If it helped you out, guys, I'm glad. If not, let me know what do you think is missing for the video. Make sure to give it a like, subscribe, and share it. Thank you guys for watching. As always, more good stuff coming real soon. See you soon.